Hello there again. I've still got this cold, as you can hear, but I want to talk about the illusion of separation. Even duality is an illusion, because everything is one, and I'll explain why it's all one. And I can explain in a very logical, common sense fashion way why it's all one. Because logic and common sense would suggest that at some stage you have to have nothing. Right now, common sense would say that. You go back, okay, at some stage there must be a clean slate of nothing. Now, once you have awareness from that, whatever way it comes, whether it's always aware or whether it just comes out of nothing, you have the awareness, and then you have what you're aware of. So that presents, it's like when you're in your dream, when you dream at night. You're creating your dream, but you think that there's a two being, you're the experiencer in the dream and the experience itself. But it's actually just you doing it. It's your mind doing it. And that is like reality as well. It's just a dream of separation. And you see, even people, so many people get caught in all the labels that they think that something is sacred because someone said it was sacred. But they don't realize, it's like what I go on about that Steve Jobs quote when he said, Steve Jobs said that, and it's true, that everything is made up by people who are no more smarter than you. And that is the way it is. Everything is just made up by somebody. Yes, some things might be amazing, might be really deep things, some of these spiritual things might be amazing, and I might be able to tap into things, but it's still just made up. Like if I write a song, I might write a great song one day, but it's still made up by me. Right? And people get caught in these labels. At some stage, someone would have had to call the sun, the sun. Someone would have had to call the earth, and at some stage it was all made up. It's all made up. So what you're dealing with is just nothingness. That's what everything has to come from. That's what everything is. Just nothing. That's honestly what it is. And you can look at it from all different angles. I have. And I've come to the conclusions, all just nothing. This is nothing. This is the result of nothing. It's like if you sit in silence, you'll notice there's always a sound or something going off. And I just think that's what nothing does. I think it just produces it for no reason. I don't think there's a point. On YouTube a while ago, I watched this old man. I think he was over 100, but he was a philosopher in a university when he was younger. And he was saying, as he was dying, he said he doesn't think there's a point to life. And I agree with him. I just think it's just is. And people can talk about God, but what about before the God? Do you not realize that at some stage all things would have to come from nothing? And I'm not even bringing science into it. Science can explain this even deeper and can show, like they've got this machine now in mainstream science. I was watching it on YouTube a while ago, this documentary, and they've got this machine that can go right back to the Big Bang, and they can actually prove now that it all came from nothing. But people talk about science when it comes to climate change, but when it comes to things that they don't want to hear about, they don't want science then. That's what I've noticed about science. People want science, they want science facts when it suits them, but when it's against their religious beliefs, they don't want science then. Because people like to live in their delusional thing, they like to live in their beliefs. I agree with what Osho once said, that I don't believe in believing. You know, because beliefs causes you to doubt things. If I was seeing some lassie and I believe or want to tell myself that she likes me, that's not enough for me. Sorry, not enough. I've got to know it. I've got to feel it. And that's the point. You've got to know. And that's what this, you know, someone on Instagram said to me yesterday that I think they just assumed that I basically repeat what spiritual people say. What happened to me was I had an unexpected awakening out of nowhere. I wasn't into anything really spiritual. I thought spirituality was a cool thing, but I wasn't really, you know, heavily into it. None of these philosophies I knew about, and I had an unexpected spiritual awakening out of nowhere. And that's what happened to me. But when people assume, I don't really get back to them when they just assume things of me, because I don't think there's a point. If people are just going to presume and assume things, then I don't see a point in explaining. There's no point. Because if they've chosen to, you know, not ask you or just assume, that I can't be bothered explaining. I would rather do a talk on here that can go to more people. You know, that's what I'd rather do. But, you know, duality itself, it's like everything's a non-dual. Nothing. At some stage, and that's all it ever can be, if it's ever that at some stage. Because with nothing, you can't have a start point, can you? That means we would never experience the nothing as a nothing. That's just a theory of mine, but I don't know if it's valid. But I'm just thinking that if you can't ever experience that, but then again, when you're knocked out in like hospital, you do experience the nothing, because then you're aware. But you could say that this, you know, these questions that I ask and I go into these things, you know, I didn't think of this before my unexpected spiritual awakening. What happened was I spent a lot of time alone. All my life, all my childhood, always alone. And one day I started to observe reality. And then I started to go through the shifting unexpectedly. And I know it wasn't unexpectedly. I feel very strongly that I know that it was meant to happen, and that's what happened. You know, it happens, but some people might think it's an accident. They might just think it's a crazy accident. But that's what happened to me. And then all these philosophies, I thought I was going crazy. And then I found out later, I looked up YouTube about my similar experiences, and I found out that what I was talking about was in Buddhism, and that other people have had similar experiences. So, you know, that was good, and, you know, that's how it happened. I just one day had enough of the depression, and then all of a sudden I started shifting. I started to just pay attention to things. I started to expand my awareness and started to be still, and that is how I got to this meditative state that I'm always in, by simply being still. You know, but the depression had to be there, a bit like duality, but the two, you know, this is a good chance to explain why there's the illusion of two, because they are split. It's like male and female. You know, it's like you've got the awareness, but you're aware of something else. But the two is actually one, you see. It's just an illusion. It's like you looking into a mirror and the mirror thinking it's separate, but it's not really thinking that. It's just a perceptual thing. It's actually the same thing, the same oneness. And that's what I started to perceive once I had this unexpected awakening, and I get awakens all the time. And anyone can do it. All I did was choose to, like I say, pay attention. Most people are so preoccupied by the outward world and of greed that they don't pay attention to stillness. They don't pay attention to their heart space. They don't. It's just all ego driven, and that's why there's so many depressive people. I haven't had depressions for about almost 5 years now, because this path showed me the way. You know, I was living in my head when I had the depression, and the awakening let go of that. It showed me that it's all an illusion. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. The reality and life is just a dream. It's basically just a dream. You know, it's so similar to a dream, and I think it's just a dream, and it's not important. And that because of I think like this, the ego dies away. You know, and it's all oneness, just experiencing itself as separate. You know, and that's what I know from this experience. Because what happens is when you have that unexpected spiritual awakening, you start to observe instead of being lost in the experience. See, this is why spiritual awakening in the spiritual field and community is so important, and people travel all over the globe to try and get it, you know. And you don't have to travel all over the globe to get an awakening. You just have to, it's just a case of deciding. You know, Will Smith said it. He said, once you decide, when he's talking about law of attraction, that it's the same with awakening. It's a decision thing within you. It's all within you, you see. You know, the outward world is just all illusory and illusion and stuff. But it's within you, that it's your heart space that knows the way. You know, when someone thinks they're in love with someone and they say, oh, they broke your heart. No, that's not to do with your heart. That's to do with your ego. A lot of people think that they love someone, but it's actually your ego imagining a scenario with that person. It's nothing to do with your heart. Your heart goes by truth, authenticity, and truth is the heart space. So your heart would just be, as Buddhists say, it would just love to love. You know, to love is to love. And unconditional. So when you get hurt in love, it's nothing to do with your heart, it's to do with your head. But this awakening, that's what it showed me, to just go within my heart space and just open up to your issues and face them and meditate upon them, and then you heal it. And you know, I've realized now that it's, for a long time, nearly 9 years in this awakening, it's all one. It's like science can even prove how a little object is actually the infinity of everything else as well. You know, it's quantum physics, I think it's called, and they show how it's all the same thing. Because it all comes from the same nothing. And you can't have two nothings. And nothing is infinity. All of infinity. So that's why you can't have separation or two. It's not possible. So it's what we're experiencing is a dream, an illusory dream of even self, because it's the same awareness. What the self is the same awareness, but perceiving it's separate, and then that becomes an ego attachment, and it hurts people when you hold on to this self, and it doesn't actually exist. If it's the same awareness, then you thinking you're separate is an illusion. It's complete illusory. It's the same one. Right? And the ego, that is the thing that clings to things and you know, but that doesn't exist either. It all comes from nothing. It's all nothing. Like I said earlier in the video, everything is just made up, like Steve Jobs said. It's all made up. Labels and names, and people don't get caught in it. Understand it's all made up. It's all just nothing. And all the world is mad, like what David Icke says a lot. It is, you know, buying into the label and then repeat it. They repeat it. It's like they talk about Jesus or religious figures, but they don't know them really. But yet they think they're so incredible without doing really any research. And it's madness. It just shows you how easy it is to control people. But all comes from nothing, all is nothing. And I'm just going to leave it there. And if you're watching, you're meant to watch it. Everything falls to divine order and divine timing. All is a non-dual nothingness, infinity. Thank you for watching.